You ready to talk some football? All right, just to start it off, first thing, you guys manage large rosters full of alpha males. Do you have any advice for people in the room here that have to manage big personalities?
Let's go ahead, Kyle. Let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you. No, I mean, there's alpha males all over in the NFL and in all your guys' businesses, but an alpha male is usually there's only one in the room at the end of the day, so they're all going to compete over that because there can only be one, and usually that's the better player. You can't get the best thing at every single position. You got to put the right people together, and if you got too many people who are always competing to be the alpha males, you got to put the right building together. That always having the best of everything doesn't always make the best team. I've found that just the best coaches, you don't necessarily try to get the number one receiver coach, the number one quarterback coach, the number one. That doesn't always work together. You try to get the best of everything, but they got to be the best together. And that's how you try to build a team. That's how you build a staff. That's how you build a building. That individually, someone might be better than other, but what's the best team? And if you have too many alpha males trying to dominate a room, you can't get anything done.
Well, I think, first of all, most of the players that we have strong personalities. They were captains in high school. They were captains in college. They're decorated players. They've had a lot of success. And we're looking for players here in the Senior Bowl that have strong personalities. Now, it's our job as coaches to try to channel some of the personalities in the right way. And sometimes I think meeting with these guys privately, learning about them, what their message might be to the rest of the team, not only verbally but non-verbally, is important. But take interest in them, encourage them to be themselves, and help them manage their strong personalities, which is a challenge sometimes. And if they can't manage it, we trade them to Dallas or something like that.
All right, we talk a lot about mentoring in the business world. Who is your greatest mentor, and what's the one lesson that you learned from them that you could share with us?
You're up now, man.
Well, my mom and dad are my greatest mentors. My dad was a coach at Notre Dame when I was in high school. He was a personnel director. My dad is the genius that drafted Bo Jackson for Tampa Bay. He's been in football his entire life. I have so much respect and trust in him that I listen to him, and I execute his message every chance I can. And my mom's the same way. My mom's an elementary school teacher. They taught us, my brothers and I, to find our passion and go for it. Whether you're in medicine or whether you're in football or whether you're in any phase of life as a dad, find your passion, go for it. And I would say those are my top two mentors.
Yeah, mine would be the same. You know, my dad was also a football coach.
Pretty good one.
What's that?
A pretty good one.
It's a decent one. Yeah, no, he did a good job, and it took me a while to know for sure I wanted to get into coaching because all I had to go off was my dad, and I held him on I had such high regard for him and the standard of how hard he worked and what he did that growing up I was like, man, I don't know if I can do all that. I don't know if I can work that hard. It's everyone's like that in coaching, and then finally I made a conscious decision that, you know what, I can do that and I want to do that. And then I got into coaching and I'm like, man, not everyone is like that. And he was pretty good and still is. And I was so fortunate to grow up around that, and just that's when you see your dad like that every single day, that becomes who you are, because that's the standard and that's all you know. And then you get into that world and that business and you see, man, I was very fortunate to grow up with that, because I thought everyone was like that, and that's in a 5 percentile. There's not many people like that, and he was always himself. He worked hard. I didn't work with him until I went to Washington, which was cool because we both went our different paths. I started out with this guy right here, and it was awesome because everyone thought all the football I knew was my dad's football, but I just knew that growing up, watching it as a fan, just like everyone else. I started out learning with John. And my 5th year in coaching is when I worked with my dad for the first time, and we came from different spots, and it was neat to see how good he was and for him to see stuff that I was at, and then to kind of compete with each other and try to annoy the hell out of him working for him.
Okay, we talk a lot about overcoming adversity and having grit. Can you give any advice on how to the audience about how you overcome bad mistakes, adversity?
I think all that stuff is, I mean, that's just life. You're going to go through hard times, and when you're younger and those first hard times happen, that you just can't believe how bad this is going to be. And man, what if you make a bad call in the Super Bowl and everybody blames you for that? How are you going to get over that? Like, if someone had told me that growing up, I'd been like, oh my God, what'd I do the next day? Just stop living? And you realize, no, you can deal with that. You can deal with it all. And when you realize that you go through that stuff, and no matter how hard it is, you do get stronger if you get through it. And you start to realize not all those hard times totally matter. Those hard times are what make you. And I've been through some tough times. I joke about the Super Bowl, but man, that wasn't as tough as the 4 years I spent in Washington. You go through a lot of stuff that, man, I wish I didn't have to go through that. And now you look back and I wouldn't at all be the person I am right now if I didn't go through that stuff. And so you got to just, good times or bad times, you don't really have to label it that. It's experiences, and what do you get out of it? And if you can keep perspective in that way, there aren't a lot of bad times when it comes to that type of stuff. It'll make you better.
As well said, Kyle.
Thank you.
I just believe you have to coach mental toughness. I think we get caught up sometimes in executing plays, defense, offense, special teams, covering all these situations, different drills. We got to coach mental toughness. Bill Walsh, the great ex-coach of the 49ers, taught me a long time ago to have a contingency plan for sudden change. You got to sit in your room sometimes and imagine losing 34-3 to the 49ers like we did. As much as you don't want to, there are times you got to have a contingency plan where you know things might not go right on a particular evening. So you got to keep your poise after the game, but think about what you're going to do before the bad things happen. And that was a great lesson, I think, that I learned. And it all depends on who makes the mistake. If an official makes a mistake, treat them differently.
We're going to go off the script a little bit here, just to, you've been out of coaching for a while, and Kyle, you've been in, and I'd just be curious to know, like, dealing with the new generation of players that's coming up, the differences that you've seen over the last 15, 20 years, and how you handle the new players of this new generation.
Well, I've got 3 sons. One of them is 25, one of them is 21, and one of them is 18. My 18-year-old is a UFC fighter in California, believe it or not. So I relate, I think, pretty good to the young generation because I have 3 boys that are the same age. And we're competing for their attention. Everybody has these Instagram accounts and Snapchats and all these YouTube videos. You got to compete for their attention. You got to be there while you're there with them. And I think you got to knock their socks off and get their attention sometimes so they get your message loud and clear. But it's a cool group of young people, and you got to help develop them just like people helped us develop.
It is changing a little bit. I've always been considered a younger guy. I don't feel like that at all anymore. I feel much older. But now what's changed a little bit, guys are a lot more educated in everything they do now. I wanted to be a football player more than anything, and my goal in life was to get a scholarship. So all I tried to work at was that, and I was very obsessive compulsive with that stuff. I wasn't with school. I was with trying to turn myself into something. They called me Little Romo because I'd follow Bill Romanowski around and carry a briefcase of vitamins and trying to figure out every little thing. And if a coach told me something, I was always listening to him and be like, why are you saying that? And I was probably annoying to coaches, but it's what allowed me to get better because I questioned everything. And so coaches really had to be on it with me. And not a lot of my teammates were like that. Now I feel like more players are because so many kids and stuff their parents have gotten them specialists in 8th grade to teach them how to do something. They all have their own strength coach in high school, which is very unusual back in the day. And so a lot of these guys, a lot of them, it's good in how I was because they're just trying to get better, but some are spoiled in that way that they've had so much specialists that everyone their whole life, and no one's pushed them that hard. They've always had a guy, hey, that guy pushes you too hard. Let me have my own guy who doesn't really make me go that hard. And so you got all these guys who, to me, what's changed a lot is not all of them understand coaching or why we coach. And to me, you coach whatever your style is. You can yell at people if that's who you are. You can be nice if it doesn't matter. It's about getting someone just to wholeheartedly believe what you say and just do it because they know you're going to help them. And there's a lot of people that it's harder to where if you say it the wrong way, hey, coach, you don't believe in me? Like, why? Everyone's been recruiting me since 8th grade. No one's told me I'm bad at that. And now you say I'm bad at that? Like, you don't like me? No, I do like you. I'm actually telling you the truth. And this is where you got to get better. And it's a fine line between when you're the first person who's really told a guy who's done stuff his whole life and he almost gets offended by it. And you got to really show them that why would you be offended if I don't tell you that? And why am I telling you this? To make you better. And that's what's changed a lot to me with some of these guys in terms of when they think you're coaching them, they think that you're going against them. And that's not the case. If I'm not coaching you, that's when you should be worried and insulted by how I'm treating you. And that's what I've found the most with younger guys compared to these older guys. They're more sensitive in that manner, and that can be very annoying as a coach. But you got to be aware of it and try to work through that. And if not, trade him to Oakland.
So my first job in the NFL was in '96 with the Packers. I was just on your heels there in Green Bay, and I just remember we had a table for dominoes and we had a table for backgammon, and the guys just hung out and played. Now leaving Seattle last year for this job, you go down to the locker room and everyone's just on their phones. So in terms of creating the chemistry, now with the new collective bargaining, you guys lose these players for a bunch of the offseason. What challenges has that created? There's the locker room culture and the chemistry. Have you had to do anything differently now with this new generation of players to try to pull a team together?
Well, it's a great question. Every year the locker room changes. You never have the same group of men year in, year out. You just don't. Free agency is going to take 30 players, whether you like it or not. You're going to draft 8 or 9 players and sign 10 or 12 free agents, whether you like it or not. So every year, you're really starting from scratch. You got to reinvent yourself a little bit as a coach. You got to reinvent your locker room. You got to reinvent your culture. You got to bring in some people from outside, I think, once in a while to come in that can echo the message that you have. You got to make sure that you're going over your priorities, what's important, how we compete, how we prepare, how we're accountable to one another. Your message has to keep resonating, and you got to have the right leadership, the core leadership, I think, in place. But every year you got to reinvent your culture, and you got to prove that you guys can go out and play as a team, because this is still the ultimate team game, and you got to really work on your culture day in, day out.
Yeah, I think it's a problem in sports. It's a problem everywhere. It's a problem at our dinner table with my 3 kids. I mean, everyone's used to looking at the phones, and it is addicting. And there's some neat things about it, but there's also some issues with it. And my 6-year-old daughter is more addicted to her phone than the 11-year-old. I can see it getting worse. They don't have phones, but they take mine every second, and they have iPads. But so it is an issue, and it's only getting worse, and it will get worse, and that does affect certain things. And we put ping pong tables in our locker room. We put a bunch of chairs around and a card table so we can encourage them to. They want to gamble, that'll entertain them. So whatever you got to do to get them off the phone and talk. So we try to encourage all of that. But the thing that, 2 years ago when I got interviewed on head coaching jobs, I went on forward, and everyone wants to ask you, what culture are you going to build? What's your message? And everyone wants some neat PowerPoint presentation or something that says this is how I'm going to build the culture. And you got to get the right people, and then the culture will happen after that. If you want people off their phones and doing stuff, you can't go tell them to get off their phones and just put a ping pong table in there and think they will. You need to get the right person in there, whether it's an old vet who's maybe not that good anymore, but he's the right type of guy. You put him in that locker room, and he'll be grabbing young guys to play ping pong. He'll be taking guys out. That person will help change the culture. And if you get the right people in there, then now you have a culture that's made up of whatever that is. And so if you want a good culture, bring in the people that you think represent that, and then the rest will usually follow.
All right, last question. What's the one trait that you guys have that has allowed you to get to this elite level in your profession?
I mean, it all starts with knowing what you're talking about. Like, you can't fake anything. I mean, you can fake it for a couple weeks, but you better know what you're talking about. And I remember when I got into coaching, I mean, everyone's like, how can you be young and these alpha males or these guys respect you and listen to you? It's because it's a job for them too, and they want to make money and they don't want to get fired. So all they're going to do is who can help them. It doesn't matter how you are, how you look, what age, it doesn't matter. Can you help people? And the way you help people is you're good at what you do. So you better, whatever you decide to be good in life, and I wasn't good at a lot of things. I was not good at school, but I was good at football, and it's because not because I was special, because I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so I dedicated learning it, and that made me good at it. I put too many hours into it, and you can help people. And if you do have that skill set and whatever you decide to do in life, be the best at it and go at it. And then you don't have to be scared of anything. Even if bad things happen, I know what I'm doing. I'll get another job, honey. Like, I can't control all that, but I've worked too hard at this, and I'm good at what I do. And I'll be honest in that way and always keep it real. And if that's the case, you don't have to be insecure and worry about things, but you have to dedicate yourself and at least know what area is going to help you throughout your life.
Yeah, I think the one trait that maybe I have, if I have a strength, it's that I love it, man. I love football. I love it. I came back to coach because I missed the game. I missed the scoreboard. I love it. I love it. And I like hiring guys that love it. And I like to get rid of people that don't. I love football, man. I love players that love it. I think that's infectious. If you're a leader, you have to have passion for what you're doing. I can't wait to get up in the morning. My wife thinks I've lost my mind. She really does. But I love coming in there. I like doing what it takes to help our team win. And I believe preparation and presentation go hand in hand. You got to be willing to put the preparation time in. Might be a long day. Might be a real long week. When you're playing the New England Patriots or you're playing the Rams right now, preparation is tedious, it's long, it's tough. But you got to have a group of men that are willing to do the preparation. And I've been around coaches that are the best at that. But the great ones, they do the preparation, and it's the way they present the game plans. That's what Kyle was really good at. You go downstairs and you put the plays up on the screen, and you're exciting, man, and you're dazzling in your presentation. And I think it all starts with passion. But I would think that's something you got to always check yourself. Like, let's hear it for Nagy here, the job he does with the Senior Bowl, man. He has a passion for football. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Coach Gruden, Coach Shanahan, everyone.
Thanks, guys.